What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, I wanted to get this video out a bit time sensitive, somewhat of an emergency, especially if you're new to crypto. Now, Bitcoin, as you can see right here, did actually reach its all-time high on some exchanges. Some exchanges it didn't. For example, over here on Femex, we only got up to around $68,700. We did get above $69,000 on some of the exchanges, but as you can see, there is this sell-off that's happening right now. So what you're having the bears come out and saying, see, I told you so. They weren't going to make it that easy for you. You know, obviously celebrating, calling for these insane low levels, but realistically, you need to pay attention to what's happening right now, and there may only be between 18 days to potentially a week, so you need to pay attention. This actually may be one of my most important videos I've kind of ever made, so definitely stick around until the end because we need to discuss the implications of what could be happening right now for crypto. So I want to jump straight into it. No intro today, guys. I want to jump right into the charts because as you guys can actually see right here, what's kind of interesting about the Bitcoin price action right now is even though a lot of people are looking to break that $69,000, $70,000 area, if you actually look at the Bitcoin market cap, we've actually technically already broken it because there is more Bitcoin available now, which means we needed more money to push the price higher. So actually, if you look at the previous all-time high, we had about a $1.3 trillion cap, whereas the high right now that we just hit this week was about 1.35. So we actually have got a new Bitcoin all-time high, and even currently where we're sitting right now, it's sort of around that same area of the market cap, right? But here is the kicker. If we have a look at what's going on right now, guys, you know, you can say what you want about whether or not we're going to have this crazy move to the downside or not, but if we have a look simply at what's going on right now, you could see that we're above all of these major moving averages, and generally, really what you want to see is these lower averages getting above the 200 weekly. Now, that may still take some time to happen, but as you guys can see right here, if we just look at this money flow down here, you could see that we're starting to get into this first sort of 25% area, probably in the way over here, but you can see that's what's happening. Now, we generally do not just see a massive, you know, sell-off into a major bear market after this. In fact, you tend to have a very, very, very long continuation. So what you're seeing right now is potentially some people who may have just been in the markets for quite a long time. They're back at the all-time high. They're like, screw this, I've waited long enough. I'm just taking my profits and I'm just getting out of here. Well, to those I say, good riddance, because by the end of this video, you know, if these people are deciding they want to sell and get completely out of the market, well, it's probably not going to turn out to be the greatest decision because as we can see, yes, there is opportunities for these pullbacks, right? And generally speaking, when you do reach previous all-time highs, you do occasionally start to have some form of a pullback at some point, you know, but the question is, with the pent-up ETF demand, how much of a pullback would we actually get and how long would it last, right? There's basically three scenarios that you could see. You could see a pullback from these levels, which that has happened before. In fact, the last time we were attempting to break the all-time high, we actually had 4 weeks of accumulation before we broke through that area. But what most people don't realize is once we do, inevitably, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, we do break and hold above that all-time high, well, the statistics of how high we could go based on just retail, not even including the ETF, is actually mind-blowing.
Kind of a rocket ship. If you look over the last 60 days and in the next 60 days, I think there's two big stories. The ETF approvals obviously were a huge deal. BlackRock alone has $11 billion in their ETF. They added $1 billion just in the last day. And so these are massive inflows for just one fund. There's 11 of them. And so obviously there's tons of money coming in, about 12 times more demand for Bitcoin than what the network is producing every single day. But also, as we near this record high, if we go back and we look at past record high breaks, or if we eclipse the old all-time high, 3 of the 4 times Bitcoin doubled in 18 days or less. And so if you think about that for a second, once you break through an all-time high, it's price discovery. What is this thing worth? The world is going to try to figure that out. And 3 of the last 4 times in 18 days or less, it doubled in price. You add in the fact that we have the halving coming, and we're going to go from 900 Bitcoin a day coming into the supply to 450. And it's very hard to make an argument that Bitcoin is not going much higher and at a faster pace than we all expected.
But you just made a case for going from 70 to 140 in 18 days. I mean, that sounds like things that you hear on TV where you just want to really stay away from.
Bitcoin's up 20% in the last week. It's up 60% in the last month. And it's up 200% in the last year. I'm not saying it's going to 140,000. What I'm saying is 3 of the last 4 times, it doubled in 18 days. And with a halving upon us, it's just hard to not say this is likely to go much, much higher.
And the craziest part about all the previous Bitcoin cycles and Bitcoin price action is it was primarily retail driven. Whereas now, obviously, we have these ETFs, which now has brought in 3 new camps of investors.
And so what I think also we start to pay attention to here is, look, there's 3 main new buyers that are now going to come into the market. The first is public pension funds, right? We had a fund, it was anchored by 2 public pension funds in Fairfax County. Catherine Molnar and Andy Speller were the CIOs there, and they're up 12x on their exposure to Bitcoin in that fund. And so when you see that, you say to yourself, wait a second, there's only 4 funds last year in all of state public pension funds that were fully funded. If they all went and put 1% in Bitcoin, there's a very strong possibility that a number of those funds would get back to fully funded status over the next 10, 15, 20 years. On top of that, you've got sovereign wealth funds. They've been very quiet right now. There's now ETF opportunities for them. They don't have to go buy Bitcoin and potentially take the risk of the geopolitical backlash. They can simply go get the exposure without actually holding the Bitcoin. If a sovereign wealth fund comes out, especially a major one, and says, we've bought Bitcoin and it is a material percentage now of our portfolio, I think that there will be a global race between countries.
And this is the part where the markets get crazy. They try to shake out the weak hands. They try to get you to second guess your investment, right? Oh man, Bitcoin's starting to fall. Maybe I should sell. Maybe I should get out right now. But you have to look. If we do end up breaking this right here, obviously the only thing after breaking the all-time high is price discovery. Now, as far as going to the downside, yes, we have plenty levels, right? We have the 0.786 at around 57. We have the 0.618. Maybe we revisit that around 48,700. But I'm telling you guys, that would be the opportunity to back up the truck and load up the Bitcoin, because I don't know when we're going to get this big dip. At some point, we always get these corrections on the way up. Maybe we get it now, and maybe we go down for 4 weeks and then we break it. Maybe we, break above it, and then it's a sell the news into the halving event. But at that point, if Bitcoin's at 90,000 and it corrects back down to 65, you could basically just be buying at these levels anyway, right? It's all about, forward looking. And when you have these price discovery moments, sorry about the plane outside, guys. Sorry, just had to let that plane pass. But as you guys could see right here, after you break this Fibonacci extension level, the next area, because there's no price action here, there's nothing to go off of. The next area that you would look would be the 1.618, which puts Bitcoin at around $102,000, roughly. The one after that, the 2.618 would be 156,000, and the 3.618, which we actually did go to last cycle, would put Bitcoin at $210,000. So even just taking that first level right there at 102,000, when you think about the fact that 3 out of the 4 times we actually doubled the price once we broke in 18 days or less, that really shows you that time is in fact running out. And unfortunately, probably after this point, the average person is no longer going to be able to afford a full Bitcoin. So, that was the goal. There were so many opportunities. If you still are close to getting one, not financial advice, but one Bitcoin, when you think about what it could be worth in the future, I've heard the most insane price models I've ever heard. I've heard like $50 million per coin. Guys, let's just break the all-time high, for now. But again, the thing about Bitcoin that makes it so beautiful is that this asset class is like something that we've never seen before, right? You could see Bitcoin right now is actually even attempting to push up on silver, basically putting Bitcoin at the 9th largest cap in the world. Maybe it's a little bit lower today, because of the pullback. But at this point, it has no jurisdiction. It's not Saudi Arabia. It's not USA. It's an absolute global phenomenon that everyone can gain access to. And like Matt Hogan was pointing out, these ETFs are actually acting a lot more aggressively and a lot crazier than we thought they would.
But I think the demand for these ETFs far exceeded anyone's expectations. By any measure, these are the most successful ETF launches of all time. And as you mentioned in the last segment, sometimes it comes down to simple supply and demand. If we looked last week, these Bitcoin ETFs purchased over 30,000 Bitcoin net, and Bitcoin miners only produced 6,000 Bitcoin. And as you said, that number is going to fall in half the amount miners are producing in a few weeks. More demand, reduced new supply. Sometimes it's as easy as that to explain why the price is going up.
And I know what you're thinking. At some point, somebody's got to sell, right? And then what happens to retail? What happens to everybody else? Well, the interesting thing actually is it's a little bit different this time, because the most likely people to sell are actually the retail or the OG hodlers that have been holding since, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. But what's interesting, like Matt Hogan also goes on to explain, is that the ETFs are probably not going to be the primary sellers.
Yeah, the thing that could stop Bitcoin from rallying is if long-term Bitcoin investors decide to sell, right? Because the ETF is soaking up more than 100% of the net new supply. So it's only when people who have been holding Bitcoin for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years decide to sell that we could see prices pull back, because I don't see the ETF demand going anywhere. You could see some of that selling as we breach new all-time highs, but I think we're going significantly higher. I think this is a bull market with legs. I think we'll still be talking to this about this into the summer and beyond.
And again, like I said, when we were looking at that market cap, Bitcoin is fundamentally different than a stock. It's more similar to gold or silver, right? And we're coming up on that silver market cap soon, which would literally put Bitcoin as the second. I mean, I think it's the most sound money. It is the most sound money, but according to the market cap, yeah, we got a ways to go until we get to gold. But it's primarily sentiment driven, which makes it a completely different animal.
And you have to understand that, Bitcoin is maybe the only globally traded asset that I know of whose demand is purely based on sentiment. There's not a Bitcoin company. There isn't Bitcoin price earning ratios. It's just a sentiment driven token. And what you can say about that, of course, is that sentiment has no limits. You can always be more optimistic. And so this rally may be the biggest we've seen. If we just look at where we stand today, pre-halvening for Bitcoin, and look at historical patterns, that would suggest, and I'm not predicting this, I'm just saying if you applied the historical patterns, it would suggest Bitcoin being in excess of $300,000 at the peak of this next bull market.
And yes, of course, being sentiment driven, that obviously means that emotions get involved, right? But at the end of the day, there is no CEO, there is no company that's pushing Bitcoin. This is something that people are literally just choosing to go into, right? I mean, the only real advertisement we have are BlackRock and friends showing, their Bitcoin ETF commercials on TV, right? And looking at what we're doing right now, yes, this was actually quite expected. It's very common to not break the all-time high on first attempt, but what you can see is we did build up a few days right here. So it could be possible, maybe we're just coming down to just retest this leg right here and move up, or maybe we do go down to some of those Fibonacci levels. Something even interesting, just to point out, at some point, we're going to break the parabola. It's going to happen, okay? We're not going to just go up like this forever. We're going to break that parabola. But what's crazy is if you actually have a look at this, I don't know if you guys know textbook patterns, but this could potentially be forming a cup and handle, right? So even if we had, this, we came all the way up to the all-time high, we had a retest even down. I mean, I know this sounds crazy to say out loud, but even a retest down to 44,000 right here would still be bullish, and it would still maintain a massive uptrend. So again, guys, just saying, these opportunities, these upcoming dips, like the bears are going to try to shake you out of the market. The markets are going to be volatile as hell. But at the end of the day, who are you selling your Bitcoin to? That's the biggest question. But, again, if we do break that all-time high, I mean, personally for me, I would think that if you don't feel that you have enough crypto, I'm not saying like I'm rooting for a pullback here, but I am saying that being able to buy Bitcoin below the previous all-time high is a gift, considering 3 times out of 4, we tend to double in less than 18 days. It's just something to consider. So that being said, guys, I just wanted to say, don't let the markets freak you out. The bull run is still on. It doesn't matter what happens over the next couple weeks. I mean, who knows? We could just slice through it like butter. At some point, we're going to have a 30-40% correction. It's just inevitable. It happens. But I don't believe that when that comes, whether we're having it right now, whether it's, sell the news into the halving, whatever it is, these dips are for buying. This bull run is just getting started. And yeah, it's definitely not time to be sleeping. It's not time to be freaking out. And I'll tell you what, once we do break those all-time highs, then you are eventually going to start seeing the, the alt season that you've heard about for all these years. And if you think what we're seeing right now is alt season, not even close, my friends. Not even close. So that's it for me today. And I also just wanted to mention real quick, we have this promotion with BitGet going on. If you sign up, literally just sign up, you get 5 BGB tokens literally for free for the first 50 users. Deposit $100, get 10. Deposit 500, get 50. You don't even have to trade. Just literally sign up, deposit money, and you will get free tokens. So if you're interested in that, that link is below in the description. If you do want to learn how to trade, check out these tutorials right now. Do be careful. It's very volatile times, guys. But at the end of the day, this is just the name of the game. This is the way it goes, guys. So I love you. I'm still massively, massively bullish for the remainder of this year. So until next time, guys, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.